Hi, I'm Bert Urbani with the DTE Energy Green Team. We're here today with the Greening of Detroit to learn how to properly plant a tree. Trees are an important part of our community and they're a big investment, so they need to be planted properly. Trees need room to grow and we need to plant them safely. One of the first things to do when you're checking for the proper location to plant a tree is to look up. Tall trees can grow into power lines and can present a hazard. So when we are planting around power lines, we want to make sure that we're planting small ornamental trees that don't grow higher than 15 feet. And we also need to think about what's underground. There are utilities underground, and so you need to call Dig at least 3 days before a planting. They'll come out and they'll indicate where the utility lines are, so you can go ahead and plant that tree safely and properly. Now that we know about planting the right tree in the right place, let's meet Dean Hay of the Greening of Detroit.
Hi, Bert. The Greening of Detroit started about 21 years ago because we were losing so many elm trees along the Detroit city streets. Since then, we've planted about 65,000 trees, and the DTE Energy Foundation has been a big part of the number of trees we've planted. We plant trees based off of the mature tree size and in the location that it's going to be planted in. For example, a crabapple will only grow to be about 15 foot tall and 15 foot wide. An oak will grow to be about 80 foot tall and about 60 foot wide. So when you're planting your tree, you want to take a look at the place you're going to be planting to ensure that it doesn't overgrow the space or it'll eventually grow into a house or across a sidewalk. Take example here. We've chose this location. It has a very narrow berm area between the sidewalk and the street. So we're going to be planting a small tree, a crabapple, in this location. The first step in digging a hole is you want to find the location of where the tree is to be planted. This tree was planted or marked with a O for ornamental. We're going to be stripping off the sod and placing that in one pile outside of the workspace. We'll be using this sod later on to build a berm around the tree when it's planted. Now that we've cut all the sod away in a circular pattern, double the width of the root ball, we're going to start digging the soil. We'll put the soil in another pile so that we don't mix it with the sod pile. The best way to dig is to put your foot onto the shovel. This will put pressure down onto the shovel without using too much of your strength in your upper body. As you're lifting, you want to bend with your knees. Now we're going to measure the depth of the hole and measure it against the height of the root ball to ensure that the tree is accurately planted by its depth.
You'll want to note where the location of the root flare is in order to determine the correct depth of the root ball. The root ball itself should be entirely underground, but the root flare should remain at grade. You'll want to measure the depth of your hole based off of the height of the root ball at the root flare.
Now that we've dug the hole to the correct width and depth, we're going to roll the tree into the hole. The way to do this, you need two people. One is going to hold on to the trunk while the other person rolls the root ball. As it's going into the hole, we need to pull the trunk up in order to stabilize it in the upright position. Now that we have the tree in the hole, we want to make sure that it's upright and plumb. We don't want to have a leaning tree because it will never correct itself. Now that the tree is straight, we're going to put an inch of soil all the way around the root ball to stabilize it so it won't shift as we're preparing the tree. Now that you put an inch of soil all the way around the root ball, you want to compact it with your foot. We do this so that the tree doesn't shift while we are removing the ropes from the root ball. Now that the burlap is pulled back, we don't want to pull on the tree at all. The absorbing roots in the top 6 inches of the root ball are as thin as a human hair, and if you put any pressure on them whatsoever, they'll break and it'll slow the time that it takes in order to establish this tree into the surrounding soil. So now we want to start filling the hole back in with the soil that we have After we put in 3 to 4 inches of soil, we're going to compact it with our foot. We don't want to put in too much soil because it will leave too many air gaps. The air gaps will end up drying out the roots as they expand into the soil. After you've put in your first lift of soil, you want to continue this process of compacting and placing 3 to 4 inch lifts around the edge of the root ball. You'll know you're complete when you reach the top of the root ball or the edge of the hole. Once you've filled the hole and compacted it, you may have additional soil. What you want to do is use this in order to make a circular berm or a donut around the tree. This will help to keep the water in around the root ball as you're watering. And what it'll also do is to keep the lawnmowers away so that they don't get too close to the tree. The berm should be constructed at the edge of the root ball. After using all of the soil, we want to start stacking the sod pieces on the edge of the berm. The sod should be stacked so that it's the green side down. We don't want to have any grass up next to the tree. We want to try to clean up the lawn around the tree as much as possible to ensure that the grass continues to grow next year. After establishing your berm, you want to put 10 to 15 gallons of water in around the root ball. You don't want to pour it with much force onto the root ball because it will erode it away. You'll want to pour the water slowly at the edge of the berm all the way around. What this does is it helps to compact the soil and release the air bubbles that are in the uncompacted soil. Now we're going to start distributing the mulch. We're going to put the mulch around the edge of the berm in order to keep the weeds down. What this will also do is it'll help to insulate the tree roots during the winter and keep the water in around the roots in the summertime. You can't put mulch around the pan or around the top of the root ball, but you want to keep all of the mulch at least 3 inches away from the root collar itself so that it doesn't rot out as the rain collects around that tree. This is just one tree of 8,000 we're going to plant this year at the Greening of Detroit with the help of our community planting partner, DTE Energy Foundation.
And the company and the DTE Energy Foundation have planted more than 20 million trees throughout Michigan since 1995. Someone once said that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So let's get planting.